Heather McDonald has got the juicy scoop. When you're on the road, when you're on the go, Juicy Scoop is the show to know. She talks Hollywood tales, her real life Mr. Segment serial data and serial sister. You'll be addicted and addicted fast to the #1 tabloid real life podcast. Listen in, listen up. Whoop whoop. Heather McDonald, Juicy Scoop.
Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. So much Juicy Scoop. I've been overwhelmed with some of the hottest topics, following up on them. I'm going to get to it. I am taking off this Friday to see you at the Houston Improv. Tickets are almost sold out because it is at limited capacity. It's private tables with your group of people. So Houston Improv, I'm there this weekend. Then I'm going to be at San Antonio with Julie Goldman will be opening for me. That's in March. And also Dallas Addison Improv in March. Everything's at heathermcdonald.net. Dates being added, all the safety precautions. Okay, let's get into it. Armie Hammer, you guys, I am overwhelmed. I've been talking to the Zen Blonde who had put me together with Casey Hammer. That interview went really broad. I've gotten a lot of articles written about it. This one from Distractify. They mentioned Juicy Scoop, so thank you. They got into the history of the Hammer family and just how dark it is. It's in her book. You can also read it in that article. There was also a Washington Post article I mentioned on Tuesday that really takes you down what the history of this family is. Now, what happened in the last couple days is, and I hinted at it Tuesday, but I was a little bit unsure of how much I wanted to share. Okay. In 29 Palms, Joshua Tree area, there was a missing woman that her car was found. It's very confusing. There was a missing woman's car found. This is it in the photo if you're on my YouTube. And she left her family in Northern California. She's a pretty brunette in her 30s, very attractive, who went to Joshua Tree. Now, if you're not from California, you might go, what is the deal with Joshua Tree, Heather? Well, it's kind of weird. It's kind of artsy fartsy. It's a lot of celebrities like to buy homes. Like the people that live there will every day, if you have a cool house, someone will approach you and say, I want to just buy your house. It's like you look up at the stars. It's kind of, maybe there's a new funky coffee shop once in a while. There is not a lot of cute places to stay, but the few that are packed. And Armie Hammer has a friend that supposedly owns a hotel motel there, that he was doing construction work with his friend during the summer. So he was in and around that area. Now, this woman who has a child, but the child is 9, she went missing. June 14th, she said, I'm going to hike around Joshua Tree Camp. June 16th, her family said they had lost contact with her. And they found the car, and the car looked like it hit something, but then also there's a huge crack in like half of the window, and like a circle in the passenger side is missing. In the trunk was found a stroller, which is odd, since her child was older than, was 9, so I don't know why she had a stroller. And so that was very weird. Now, in the last couple days or last week, they found bones, human remains that hikers have found. So now it's hard for me to put it all together. I believe this woman's body is still not found, but there has been a female body found and a male body found. Now, there was also right around that same area a story about a guy riding a red bike, and he was going to help his girlfriend's friend with her car. And that was the last they heard of him. And then and he never was found. That was around September. However, the red bike has been found. So basically, there's been people missing. There's been several cases of people that just go missing. This woman, this man. And people are like, why are there people missing in this area? Well, it is a weird area. It's methy, it's hippie, people hike, it's hot as shit, it's funky. It's strange. And the San Bernardino, it's in the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department. That is their district. So with all the information that's coming forth, and so much of this is coming through Instagram and Instagram anonymous gossip sites where people write and, tell their stories about how they got together with Armie and they dated him and he did this to them. And it's very hard to follow, and anybody can create a fake account. So in talking about this, I'm being really careful. But we do know this for sure today about Armie Hammer. We know from Paige Lorenzo that he carved his initial in her body. She had bruises. We saw the photos of it. And I believe everything she says about their relationship. He has said, oh my gosh, I'm being shamed for that I'm into the kink world. There's been several other women that have said that they agreed to be part of this S&M relationship with him, and then it got real dark and scary. And so right now, though, he is in the Cayman Islands. Okay, that is what we're told. That is what we are aware of. He's in the Cayman Islands. Now, that's a big problem because the Cayman Islands, if the police department did want to talk to him about the fact that there might be some connection, or they just want to ask him, hey, where were you these days? And do you have alibis to show you that you weren't in this area in these days? Even if they wanted to ask him that, they can't get a hold of him. I mean, he's in the Cayman Islands. And so in order for him to come to a police station and just talk to someone to clear himself, and if he doesn't want to do that, they would have to get all their information together, prove that there's enough of a reason to talk to him, and then have a judge in the Cayman Islands say, yes, we're going to extradite him to go talk to him. So what I'm basically saying, you guys, is as far as tying him to any type of investigation or talking to him about these murders, it's going to be a long ass time. I mean, and so meanwhile, Page 6 reported, I think Sun was the first to report it, that the police department in this area, San Bernardino, said, no, he is not a person of interest. He's not a suspect in these missing people, in these found bodies, in these found bones. No. Now, we've all seen enough Datelines, 2020s, heck, even the documentary on the Night Stalker. The police do not need to tell the press anything. How many times has the husband been a suspect, but they say, no, the husband's not a suspect, when the wife's missing? No. But they make friends with him. They call him a few times. Then we find out later, and, with Keith Morrison that, they had tapped his phone. They put something under his car. And for 2 years, they were following him until they had enough circumstantial evidence or real evidence to go and get a warrant and actually arrest him after he stopped talking to them or whatever. So to say that someone's not being investigated, it doesn't really mean that they're not being investigated. However, like I said, him being in the Cayman Islands, I'm going to use the biggest word of 2020, it's problematic. It's not easy. So who knows what they really have connecting him? They may have nothing. And I'm not saying he did this. I just find what's really the interesting story is the internet, these internet sleuths, these, so many of us, myself included, have become like mini detectives. We joke about the murder podcast. We joke about, that all, if you want to find a murder, just like ask a 30-year-old woman and she'll find out who did it in about 10 minutes. That's kind of what's going on. And I really appreciate all the footwork that some of these Instagrammers and bloggers and other people that have DM'd me and I've been getting information from, like the Zen Blonde and Bravo and Cocktails. I appreciate all the work they're doing because it's really quite interesting. But then you got to kind of like take it for a grain of salt. Like there's this one Instagram account, House of Effie. This girl is claiming that she was a girlfriend of Armie Hammer's, and she's saying, ask me anything. And she shows the question that someone's asking her, do you still love him? Yes. If he asked you to kill yourself, would you? Yes. I mean, really kind of scary stuff. And she's now people that are following this are following her. She's at 100,000 followers. And I'm like, who is this person? Is she in Australia? Is she in Russia? Is she really a person at all? Did someone just create a character of what would a character of be like that possibly got sucked into an Armie Hammer S&M relationship and kind of just create a persona? And if we all know that people do this catfishing all the time. So I'm not saying she doesn't exist. I just think that part is really fascinating. So then Armie Hammer has these friends that people have found through photos that they have shared on their Instagrams that are not private. So like there's this one guy, and he's got a couple photos with Armie. Some are at dinner. They're very innocent. It's like, oh, how cool that this guy is friends with Armie Hammer. They go back to 2019, and he is a psychologist at the LAPD. So I don't know how these guys are friends. And then there's a couple of these other guys that now people are claiming that these supposed friends are cyber going after some of these people telling the story, some of the females that are sharing their stories. They're protecting Armie. Then it's really weird that Armie has a Finsta account. That is a fake Instagram account that a lot of celebrities have, and maybe only like 13 of their friends will follow them, and they can put their stuff on there to show their friends. And this is where I get really confused. How is this not private? How did people find it? But on this account, here's a photo of him with some of these friends. This guy is the psychologist at LAPD. Kind of weird. But again, that was posted like a year ago, so who knows where he stands in the friendship now. And then there's just these other photos of himself. That's where he has the weird mustache. These were all found on his supposed fake Instagram account. So this is what I will say about Armie. If you are going to the Cayman Islands and you're hanging out at the Ritz at the Cayman Islands, which is apparently where he is right now. This is what everybody's saying. He's supposedly with this girl that he's made references to. I've seen her Instagram account. I don't know if this is true either, but she's another pretty brunette, young pretty brunette. Let me just say, you might get excited when you see Armie there at the bar. You might be a pretty brunette and you're like, I don't fucking care. He can smack my ass. I don't care. I'm not going to die. Can you please just find another celebrity to bone to tell your story? Because please do not get involved with Armie Hammer. That's what I'm going to say. If you are taking your family to the Cayman Islands and you also have a hot, pretty young 24-year-old daughter, can you not stay at the Ritz at Cayman Islands so that she doesn't like run into Armie and get swept up? Because no matter what we say about this guy, he will always get chicks. He's tall, he's rich, he's charming, he's, and every girl that he gets is going to be like, not me, I can handle it, I think it's hot. All that weird stuff and 29 Palms that Heather McDonald and Juicy Scoop and these people talked about is insane. It doesn't mean anything. Well, I don't know. We've all seen cases that go cold. Roman Polanski was a guy who was accused of raping a 13-year-old girl, and he left. He left and went to Europe. He disappeared. We never got him. He never went to trial for this, I don't think. Yeah, I know you guys are going to correct me, but I know he went away. He went away for many, many years. And then every once in a while, when 2020 had nothing to report on, someone pitched the story, and we saw a whole nother story on it again. That is my prediction for Armie Hammer. He has lost all his representation. So I think he's going to hang out in the Cayman Islands where his family kind of raised him. They have the church there. They have the school there. If you've ever seen The Firm, you can have a lot of money there and kind of hide it. And I think he's just going to be this guy that's just going to have girlfriends there and do his thing. Hopefully, no one goes missing in the Cayman Islands or anything. Hopefully it doesn't become like that weird guy that took the poor girl from, what was her name? Aruba, the girl from Aruba. And then remember, he was a suspect, but they couldn't get him because he was wealthy and tall and cute, and he was Dutch or something, and his dad was really powerful. And then years later, he kills somebody else and finally goes to jail. I hope that isn't the case. I'm not saying it is, but this is weird, and he's done. And I'm curious if this movie that I saw the preview for, Crisis, which looks really good, this trailer, he plays like an FBI agent, and the storyline is like a great thriller about the opiate addiction and a billionaire pharmaceutical company coming in, and one of those like psychological thriller kind of crime things. I hope that movie still comes out. I wonder if they're going to try to replace him like they did with what was the guy's name from the Getty, All the Money in the World, Kevin Spacey. They removed Kevin Spacey, replaced him with Donald Sutherland because they thought, he was so problematic they had to take him out of the movie. So I don't know if it's even possible, or they just release it and know that they're not going to spend a lot of money on publicity. So it's just really crazy. We'll continue to watch it. But like I said, it might be something that goes away for a while. And then, as he just stays in the Cayman Islands and the people sort of have their hands tied until they really, really get some solid evidence. And that's the thing. How do you get DNA evidence? We all have seen this, the detective sits outside of the Denny's. He waits for the guy to finish his, strawberry shake. And then he goes and asks the waitress, hey, can I have that straw? And then they got the DNA. But this takes so much time. Then they have to submit that, then the lab is closed. Then there's a coronavirus. So I don't know. I'll stay on the story forever, but I kind of feel like we're not going to get any resolution for quite a while. And in the meantime, like I said, do not date Armie Hammer. Do not let your friend. Brandy Glanville did a dumb joke on Twitter. It was 10:47 on Super Bowl night, and she tweeted, yeah, he can have my rib. #barbecue. He's hot and single. I'm single too, Armie. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing. People freaked out. Then she woke up and was like, yeah, I'm not saying I'm sorry. It's comedy. Then she woke up again a few hours later and was like, okay, sorry, I didn't know about all the sick shit he's done and that you guys and the rest of the world has been reporting on it for 2 weeks. I'm a little late to the party. She didn't say all that. But I'm saying she was a little late to the party. Someone's like, how do you feel about the joke? Hey, I thought it was kind of weird when I heard it 2 weeks ago, too. I didn't know if it was true. And I did think it was funny that he had the same smoker as Peter. And I made a little chuckle about it, too. Now we know it's some weird, sick shit. So, and then Bill Maher made jokes about it, thinking like, oh, please, so what? So what that he's into some S&M? Come on, this is ridiculous. So, you make these jokes and then a couple weeks or a week later you realize, oh, that joke now is really inappropriate because there really are victims. And that's the price of comedy in 2021. So there we go. The other thing I was going to say is, why are we just hearing about this girl, Erika Lloyd, now? That's the mom who I said went missing in the 29 Palms area on June 16th was the last they heard of her. She's a mother. She came from Northern California. It doesn't seem like she was on some meth run away from her family type of thing. She was just, I think, going camping. A lot of people do photography there. And so if nothing else, hopefully we can help find this woman or what happened to her and give her family some peace, whether it's tied to Armie Hammer or not. There's missing people along with this this other man that, was trying to help somebody and never heard from again, but they found his bike. What the hell is going on over there? So very good. Okay, now Rae Young. This is Heather from Selling Sunset. And if you follow her on Instagram, she is one of those girls that is madly, madly in love with her fiance, Tarek from Flip or Flop. Tarek was married to a blonde girl that looks like Heather Rae, but she gets really pissed if you say they look alike. And they had a couple kids. They got divorced, and then he fell in love with Heather Rae. and every other post is about like a big, I can't believe I found you. You're my soulmate. I love you so much. So just 2 nights ago, she posted a new tattoo that looks to be like on the kind of like sort of like your love handle, though she's very thin. And it says, "Yes, sir," like in handwriting. "Yes, sir, Mr. El Muso." That's Tarek's last name. And she has a big, huge diamond engagement ring that I guess she upgraded, but I think she just got like a new band. I think the diamond was, anyway, it's like 12 carats. Okay. And a nice big tennis bracelet of diamonds. And she posted that. And people, including myself, kind of was freaked out because in all that we're hearing about, Armie Hammer and Marilyn Manson, which I'll get to in a minute, and, the S&M and calling, your S&M man daddy, and even Erika Jayne with always calling him Mr. Girardi. It just is like weird. And so anyway, she removed it. Here's her Instagram now. We can see there's no nothing about the tat. And I think it's kind of strange. It's on your ass. So it's like, "Yes, sir. Get me from behind." I don't know. Hey, I'm not a tattoo person. I'm never going to put, property of Peter Tobias on my asshole. I have no desire to get a tattoo. So far, my kids don't have tattoos. I get it. I kind of like the way they look. I like them on other people. But, I don't know. One of the advice I got from a friend of mine was, the only name you put on your body is someone who's already deceased because they can't disappoint you. "Yes, sir, Mr. Tobias." Okay, that's my husband. Speaking of Marilyn Manson, this is another one that we're just kind of discovering like more and more victims and what a horrible person he was, and that so many people knew about his abusive behavior, and just to the point of like he was just super cruel. There's this crazy small video out where it's very short and disturbing. It seems like someone kind of grabbed it. I don't know that maybe he wanted to film it, but obviously he didn't put it out thinking it was fun. And he's absolutely screaming and verbally abusing a girl for sure, saying something like, "You think," he calls it the groupie video, "you think that you're going to be a wife and mother one day." Then the next scene, she's crying and he's making her read like scriptures. Very disturbing. And then this girl did a TikTok, and her aunt was a super fan of Marilyn Manson, and her name was Tina Bird. And then Marilyn Manson went out and made fun of her and got his entire fan base to go after her. And there's a photo of Marilyn Manson wearing a shirt saying, "At least I'm not Tina Bird." And the niece of Tina Bird did a TikTok saying, my aunt was so distraught that unfortunately she killed herself. And it's like, so not only is he a horrible boyfriend and abusive in every way, alienating you from your friends and family, demeaning you. The Evan Rachel Wood, who is Jewish or partially Jewish, he would have SWAT stickers around and constantly talk about Nazis in front of her. It was just really horrible. And there's a lot of people that can attest to his horrible behavior. Again, not totally surprised given his persona, but surprised that so many people knew and let it happen. Britney Spears. Okay. Wow. Thank God for the documentary. This is not a great day for a few people because some old videos are popping up of comedians that made fun of her and are probably dying right now. One was a clip of Sarah Silverman doing a monologue at like an MTV Awards ceremony. And I remember it, and I remember cringing about it because she talked about her kids. And she goes, "Britney Spears, those kids are so cute. Those are the 2 cutest mistakes I've ever seen." And then she did this thing, "Oh my God, they're so cute. They're almost as cute as the bare vagina that they came out of." And then she like does this thing with her face. And look, I have said this before. I don't like abortion jokes. A lot of female comedians make them. That's their right to do it. It has always made me like, that's the one thing I'm really don't ever find funny. And I also, in what I've read in the comments, and I may not be 100% correct, she then had to perform in that show. She's backstage hearing this, and then she goes to perform. And they show the audience, and a lot of the audience was kind of cringing too. And so I don't think this is a great day for Sarah Silverman, and I don't think it's – I feel for her because, everybody was doing it, and when everybody's doing it, just like any other kind of bullying, it takes one person to be like, hey – stop being mean to that kid. And one person that did that is Craig Ferguson. And that video came out. He had a late night talk show. He's the Scottish guy. And he's a great guy. I met him when I did a show of his. And he kind of said, like, it's not funny anymore. It's not funny. This she's a baby. She's only 25. She has 2 children. I'm not going to make fun of her anymore. And the audience kind of was like, wait, is he joking? Are we waiting for a zinger right now? Because everyone's making fun of her craziness. And he did have the wherewithal to put his foot down and go, yeah, this person is struggling. Another video I saw that Not Skinny, Not Fat had put on her page was Rosie O'Donnell. Now, we know Rosie O'Donnell today is a champion of women and mental health, and she's been through it with her kids. But when she had her talk show, when she was still claiming to be straight and in love with Tom Cruise, she had Mariah Carey on, and she was like, Mariah, what are you doing with this slut dress on? This is a slutty dress. I don't like it. And Mariah is like, well, my gosh, I wanted to wear something sexy. For the first 7 years of my career, I had my clothes up to here and this and that. And she's like, and what about Britney Spears? She shouldn't be allowed to wear this. She's a kid. And Britney's like, well, and then Mariah goes, well, she's really sweet and she is 18. And she's like, well, I think she should be 25 before she's allowed to wear that. And Mariah's like, okay. And another thing I don't know that I mentioned on Tuesday's show about the special was just the way Justin Timberlake's not having a great week either, because everybody's realizing what a dick he was for putting out the story that she, in fact, may have cheated on him and hurt his heart. So when Diane Sawyer's like, what did you do, Britney? What did you do to hurt our Justin Timberlake's heart so much? Britney's like, I don't know. I feel bad about it. We're just not together anymore. And so people hate Diane Sawyer, hate Justin Bieber. And they show a cover of a magazine, Detailed magazine, and they're like, something about Justin Bieber, and they're like, but at least, this is on the writing, he's in a jean jacket, and it says, at least Justin Bieber got into Britney Spears' pants. And it's just so shocking because this all happened 12 years ago. And I just think people are dying. Of course, I remember it, but people that are 30 and under are freaking the fuck out, as they should, because it's really horrible. So she goes on her Instagram, Britney, and she says on Tuesday morning, I think it was, and she goes, so yesterday was the big day. And by the way, someone said you shouldn't be making fun of her. I'm not, you guys. I have an innate ability to mimic someone. So if I'm telling a story and the voice comes out and it sounds like her, it's just because I'm thinking about her. And she goes, so yesterday was the big day. It was the Super Bowl, but I was a little bit torn because I wanted both the teams to win. And then, of course, all the, analytical Britney fans are saying she's talking about the big event was really the documentary that came out this weekend. She then posted a really great performance that she did 3 years ago to Toxic, and which she has not done that in a really long time. And then her hot boyfriend, who I did not realize, but he's on a BET show. So he's acting, he's getting work, he's really good looking. Lance Bass said he really liked him a lot, that he was a really nice guy, but people kind of question their relationship. Is he on the payroll? Is he really in love with her? He's 10 years younger than her, though when they are featured together on Instagram, they look like they work out and have fun. He wrote on his Instagram, now it's important for people to understand that I have zero respect for someone trying to control our relationships and constantly throwing obstacles our way, in my opinion, Jamie, meaning her father, is a total dick. I won't be going into any detail because I've always respected our privacy, but at the same time, I didn't come to this country to not be able to express my opinion and freedom. And meanwhile, Kevin Federline, the father of the two boys, Jaden and Sean, who are 15 and 14, his attorney is like, we have nothing to say, but all Kevin really cares about is that she's protected and the kids are protected. Meanwhile, remember, Kevin got a restraining order to protect, I think it was Sean, who got he said that the dad, Jamie, the grandpa, got in a physical altercation with him. So they have a restraining order so he cannot see the grandchildren. So isn't it crazy that the conservator has a restraining order against your children, but you have to still answer to him? I mean, there's no way this isn't going to go in her favor. And tomorrow, you're listening to this Thursday. So on Thursday, as you're listening to this, she does have a court appearance. Now, I don't know if she's actually going to court herself, if it's a Zoom, if her representative is going for her. But she has this other woman named Kaplan who was co-conservator, and she just wants her to continue to do it and get the dad out. And the son, who got the restraining order against the grandpa, said he's pretty much a dick, his grandpa. So, two dicks make one giant dick, okay? And so I think he's probably a big dick, a big controlling dick. And I think his days are over and limited. And hopefully there'll be something good that comes out of it. And they said that she is now working on her own documentary with a female filmmaker. And Britney did this a few times in her career. She had a short-lived reality show with Kevin when she's kind of trying to make Kevin a star. And that was before the freak out. She after the conservatory took over, she did like a 1-hour documentary with MTV, I think, where you saw the dad making her cheesy grits and her getting ready for her comeback, which the comeback was like 6 months after the breakdown. Pretty quick. The only person that had a quicker comeback than that was Hilaria Baldwin, who, by the way, is posting up a storm now. Kids playing in the snow, whatever. But at least she dropped off the comments. She's smart about that. So there you go with that. Okay, you guys want to talk? Someone said you're not doing enough about Housewives. Well, I'm sorry. There's just so much juicy scoop. Real Housewives of Dallas is it's okay. I'm watching it. The storylines are struggling. Now there is this guy. He's a Charmin. I think I'm saying it wrong. Anyway, he is meeting with Deandra, and he seems pretty effeminate. And he's like, "You're the queen, girl," and he like blows, like they like take a thing and he gives her snot and then she sucks it up her nose or something. It was so weird. Anyway, her whole storyline is he's teaching her not to be reactionary when her girlfriends piss her off. Well, really, honestly, this is a show. We need to see you hate each other and get pissed off. So this is kind of not that interesting. And meanwhile, Cameron, her whole story is about her dog, Fancy. And I'm trying to tell Fancy that Fancy has to be a good girl for mommy. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to sell our house. And I want my dream house, which is $7.5 million. And she's kind of a character herself. She's nice. It's whatever. Again, not totally into it. Then we have Stephanie, and she's a sweetheart. But her whole storyline is that her husband, Travis, has his life. But her life, she doesn't have an identity. She's just a mom. I'm sorry, haven't you been on a reality show for 4 years? You don't have an identity? You have millions of followers on Instagram. You're a regular TV personality appearing on Watch What Happens Live. You don't have an identity? It's not a believable storyline. I'm sorry. And then Brandy's just burnt out after her horrible PR nightmare when they found the video of her doing, the Asian eyes, and she's trying to be friends with Tiffany. And then Tiffany is the new housewife who's a doctor, and she throws a pizza party and puts crickets in the pizza. And then Brandy throws up, and that's about it. So it's okay. I hear you. It's all these shows had to film during COVID. And you know what's really also hard in all these shows is anybody that said like, "Oh, it's just being blown out of proportion. It's the flu." Bravo makes sure that they freaking have the camera on you and they show that, and that's in a preview. So everyone can sit home and go, well, what an idiot. What kind of person is this? Okay, well, this was back in March. This was even before the shutdown. So if someone maybe thought it was being blown out of proportion, can we cut them some slack 11 months later? Like, I don't really think it should be used against them, and you shouldn't be attacking these people that they weren't, who no one could have predicted. It's not like we've been through this before. More housewife news. Dorit went on Twitter to defend Erika, because this attorney that's reporting about the whole Erika Jayne, Tom Girardi stuff, there was a photo of Erika Jayne in a house, and he posted it and said, is this Erika in the Pasadena house? And it wasn't. It was her in some house in La Jolla that they were filming at or something. So Dorit said, why don't you stop bullying her? She wasn't in the Pasadena house. She was in this house. This is just getting ridiculous. But the point was, if she was in the Pasadena house, then she shouldn't have been in there at that time. And of course, there was the robbery in the Pasadena house. Who knows what they took? All those possessions are supposed to go to the bankruptcy court, because there's, lines and lines of people that are trying to get their money. So, but like I said, but Real House of Beverly Hills, that is going to be a good juicy season, because she's going to have to address it, or at least the ladies are going to talk about it. But for right now, according to social media, they all really have Erika Jayne's back. So I don't know if they didn't listen to my podcast episode with Kimberly or what, but I think it would be weird for me to continue to dine with her. But maybe she's going to reveal something that's going to change all of our minds. I don't know. Nene Leakes, a story went out that she was dropped by her entire team. ICM, United Entertainment, Steven Grossman, who I know and I've met with a few times. He has worked with a lot of housewives, Lisa Rinna, a bunch of other people. You've seen him on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills working with Lisa Rinna at a luncheon that they had together. I don't know that they work together anymore. And everybody dumped her because she's so difficult to work with. But then she wrote a tweet about that, like, how dare you? Then she removed it, and then she wrote this tweet saying, for all of you that are asking, emailing in, boxing, blogging, reporting, etc., the only statement I have is my team did not let me go. No further statements at this time. Then the day before that, she goes, I have numerous emails, text messages, Real Housewives of Atlanta, group text, voice recordings that go back years. I never got rid of anything. Fix your dirty work. Being a racist is so yesterday. So she is still saying that she was treated wrong, and so were other women on Real Housewives of Atlanta, or other women of color on the Bravo network were treated badly. And she's trying to get everybody to come together. And she also did a post that I think she took down saying, stop watching Bravo, stop watching the shows, sign a petition for the housewives. And so I don't know if they dumped her and then she became so angry that they're like, okay, Nene, we'll keep following you. I mean, hey, look, she's not in the Cayman Islands. We know that. So I don't know what's going on with her. This is Below Deck. Queen of Versailles went on the show there. Queen of Versailles, greatest documentary ever. You guys, it came out in 2008. Look it up. It's fascinating. It is about this woman and her much older husband, their 8 children, how they're building the biggest house ever outside, somewhere in Florida. And it'll be the biggest single residence home in America. And they made all their money in timeshare. And then we see the big recession happen in 2008 while they're filming it. She was on my show talking about a very tragic thing. Her daughter had an accidental overdose, and then so did Captain Lee's son. So they have a moment on the show about that, which is really sad and tragic. And then there's this girl on the show, and I'm watching this with Drake, my son, who's 18. And her name's, I forgot her name. I think it's Francesca. And she's dating this other hot guy, and they're boning in those tiny, staterooms, whatever, like those little bunk beds. But all of a sudden, he's like, I'm not into it anymore. And it's her birthday. And so he's one of those one of those guys that you think is your boyfriend, and then your birthday comes or New Year's Eve, and then they just completely ghost dick you. But it's hard for him to ghost her because they're like, in this boat together. So he's like not looking at her in the eye. He doesn't give her a happy birthday card. He doesn't give her a kiss. He doesn't give her a bone. He's like ready to get out of it. And she's like, so, after we're done, do you want to like go travel the world together? I just kind of want to know. And he's like, kind of just want this conversation to stop. And so I said, Drake, when you stop liking a girl, just please don't be this guy. Just please be like, I think you're so great, but I just don't think I'm the right person for you right now. I can't give you more than this, but I'm so glad I met you. I'm so glad we got to hang out, but I don't want to lead you on. Just be nice. So hopefully I taught him that. Shailene Woodley and Aaron Rodgers, the football player, are now engaged. Some people are a little bit concerned because she was in a 2-year relationship and he was in relationships. They met in July. They had a long-distance COVID relationship, and now they're engaged in February. Yeah, it's kind of quick, but who cares? I like them together. Now, he's estranged from his brother Jordan, who was on Bachelor, who was a contestant and then married engaged to JoJo Fletcher. They have continued to keep their Bachelor fame going. They flip like different houses and campers. They're cute together. They get commercials together. They're still engaged since 2016. Now, I'm not judging why they're not married. They might be waiting for a paycheck. They might be waiting for COVID to end, and I don't know. But it'll be interesting if Shailene and Aaron get married before them. Now for the Bachelor news. You guys, I told you when it started that I loved Matt. I thought he was charming. I like that he's tall. I think he's a babe. I like his mom. I don't like him anymore. I don't like him anymore for several reasons. One is the outfits. I have photos here and I'll post them too on Instagram, okay, of the worst outfit that I've ever seen. He takes the girls bowling in skin-tight blue pants and this bowling shirt. It's so weird. It almost looks like a little the shirt from the back looks like he was like an old-fashioned waitress at a diner, and he's basically wearing Lululemons. I found the exact same pair of Lululemons that are for sale in the color. So this is what I think, you guys. I think he's too accommodating. He's too accommodating to the producers. And also he stands, and just the way I said that Tayshia used to hold her 2 little fingertips together, he does this where he just rubs his hands. He's like, because he doesn't know what to do with his hands, so he was taught all these things. And I feel like all of his romantic moves are taught. And the good news is you can learn these things. If you are a straight guy listening to this show, which I know there's more and more of you every day, watch The Bachelor, watch what they do. Every girl will fall in love with you. One is you touch them. You touch their leg, you laugh, you act like it's funny. You got to touch them a lot. Do not be afraid to touch them. And I don't mean like grab them by the pussy, nothing like that. Just like touch their leg, their hand. He does the same thing with everybody. But who he really likes to touch is his best friend. I think his name's Tyler. He is the one who fell in love with Hannah B. And they were all quarantined together. He got him to be a contestant for Claire. Then Claire found out he was doing cameos, said, I don't want him on the show. And then they realized they really want a person of color to be the Bachelor. They're like, we already have a hot guy in the pool here. Let's make him the Bachelor. And so he misses his best friend so much. So the best friend shows up and he's playing pool. And I mean, I was again watching with Drake. Drake goes, wow, that's an aggressive hug. He just hugs him, holds on for dear life. I've never seen 2 people miss each other more and hug each other more. He also, along with wearing the Lululemon pants, he is agreeing to wear way too many turtlenecks. And Talk of Shame, again, a hilarious Instagram account, she called him nerdlenecks. Like a nerd, like turtleneck. So funny. I don't know why. They're skin tight. You could literally see his nipples through a black top. And he is there talking to him about his date that's about to go on. He does this other thing. No matter what date he's on, he constantly, because he's a big guy, goes behind the girl and hugs them, whether they're listening to music or laughing at something. He has the same physical move with every girl. Drives me crazy. So the best friend is getting a massage, and they're going to tell the massage therapist him and his girl, who is the girl, Katie, who brought the dildos to the first night, they are going to like tell the woman little jokes to do during the massage. So they're laughing. Oh, put this hard thing on his head, do this, talk about him on the phone. And then he comes in and they're like, and this was the best part of the prank. This is what Matt says. And they zoom in on Matt putting oil on his hands. And then while she's rubbing him, she leaves, the actress masseuse. And then he gets in there. And I mean, I know what they're doing. The editors want this to look so that Heather McDowell from Juicy Scoop goes, this seems like they're really into each other. But I mean, it really seems like Matt is really into him. He gives him a massage. We're dying. Then he turns around, sees his best friend, and then he falls on top of him, getting the oil onto his skin-tight black turtleneck and hugs him even longer while the girl is like, I might need to use that dildo tonight. I don't think I'm getting anything from Matt. And she didn't, because he told her he just wasn't feeling it. And she left, which is why the rumor started a couple days ago from Reality Steve that is she, in fact, the new Bachelorette? Now, she said, I'm not. But again, just like the detective said, we're not investigating Armie, doesn't mean Katie's saying, news to me. I don't know. Now, you guys, I'm really excited to share with you a great interview I did with Jeneva Rose. She is the author of the hit nonfiction book that all the Juicy Scoops are talking about, The Perfect Marriage. And it's quite inspiring, too. So please enjoy this interview. Hello, I'm so excited to be talking to one of the hottest new authors of the book, The Perfect Marriage, Jeneva Rose. How are you, girl?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on here and finding my TikTok.
Yes. So I found a few people this past 6 months on TikTok, you now being one of them. And first of all, I love the concept of your fiction book.
Thank you.
Which, why don't you just tell a little bit about it? I know some of my Juicy Scoopers have already gotten it and are reading it because they've submitted it to my Juicy Scoop Obsessed Facebook page. They're like, this is the juiciest book. And I'm like, awesome. Oh, I'm so excited to be speaking to the author. And so why don't you tell everybody what this juicy book is about?
Okay. Well, I have it right here. I know this is a podcast, but for
yes. No. We have it on YouTube.
Okay. It's called The Perfect Marriage, and it is about a criminal defense attorney who decides to defend her husband when he's accused of murdering his mistress. So it is a dark psychological thriller with a lot of twists throughout.
I think, first of all, I love that storyline.
Thank you.
That is my favorite. I always say my favorite genre of film is infidelity, killing one's spouse for insurance money, anything like that. Because I've been married for 20 years and I've not had the pleasure of stepping out on my spouse. I love anything about cheating, affairs. That's my favorite type of movies to watch, my favorite type of thing to read. So I absolutely love the storyline. Also, my sister's a criminal defense attorney, so I find that a great storyline that you have.
That's awesome.
Now, is this your first published piece of work?
Yes, it's my first published work. It published in July of 2020. And then I also write under a pen name, and I have J.R. Adler. I have the first book in the series out called Dead Woman Crossing. And that one is a murder mystery. It's not infidelity. Actually, there's a little bit of infidelity in there. But that one has some true crime tied into it as well.
Okay, so what is your background? How did you get here? I know this book is a huge success for you, and it's already been optioned to become a movie, which is super exciting. So I just kind of want to hear your story, because I have so many people that, have ideas and want to do this. And when people tell me they've got a movie idea or something, my advice is to write a book first, because movie writing is a very specific skill. But book writing, though it is very hard, it is something that people can, do on their own and get to a place that you can actually complete it, though it's the hardest thing in the world I've written too. So why don't you just kind of share how your writing began?
Yeah, it's funny that you mention screenwriting, because I actually started writing screenplays back in 2012, and I wrote 7 of them. They were mostly like comedies. There was like one action, and it is extremely difficult to like have a film company buy your screenplay if you're not out in LA and you don't have the connections. And at the time I was living in Wisconsin, so obviously I didn't have any connections. I had some interest, but it never went anywhere. And years later, it was 2016, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to write a book instead. Let's go about this a different way. So I wrote a women's fiction novel, and that didn't go anywhere. I didn't get an agent. But then I wrote The Perfect Marriage, and I got an agent within a couple of weeks. And I thought, oh my gosh, my life's going to change. And then it didn't. I had like 18 months of rejections from publishers.
Wow.
And yeah, and I rewrote it twice. And then I ended up parting ways with my agent. And I decided to just submit directly to small publishers that would, you know, take it unagented. And within 2 days I had an offer, and I knew it was a smaller publisher and I'd really have to help with the marketing because they didn't have a big marketing budget. And I was like, you know what, I can do this. My background's in social media. I've been working in social media for 10 years. I was like, I believe in the book. I believe in the storyline. And I think it will have great word of mouth because the end twist is so shocking. Like a lot of the reviews are like, you will not guess the ending guaranteed. And it's not like a twist that's out of left field. It makes sense. There's clues throughout. So
that is so exciting. I'm so, you know, and that is so hard to do because I'll be totally honest. I always wanted to write a book. I always dreamt of doing it. My 2 books are behind me. But until I got on Chelsea Lately and got an agent, and then I did a like about an 80-page proposal with, you know, for my first book, a proposal, and then a couple sample chapters, but it was about 80 pages, which was a lot to do when there's no dollar being handed to you. So I really admire you because as a procrastinator, like it didn't happen until I was in a position to make it happen. And then I didn't write it until I had a deadline and someone was depending on me. So for people that are in that position, I mean, do you have any advice? Like my advice for writers, especially with a book, is think about and this is probably weird, but I think about quantity first. Like just make a goal for yourself, 10 pages a weekend if you have a regular 9 to 5, or, so many pages a week. And then you can go back and at least clean it up. But if you've got nothing to start with, then it's really hard to keep building on it. Because I loved going back and making it better once I had something on the page. What's your advice to that?
My advice, I've had 300 rejections in my career as a writer. So my advice is to keep going. I thought of every no as not right now or a noble attempt. So I just kept going. So I always tell people, just keep going. Someone's eventually going to say yes. And I'm a binge writer. So I'm either writing a book in 1 to 3 months or I'm not writing anything at all. And I'm all or nothing with everything in my life. I'm either having no wine or a bottle of wine. So whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, just get the words on the paper, push through that first draft because the first draft is hard just to get it there. And then you can't edit a blank page. So just get it on the paper and then go back.
Now, I love the TikToks that you did, because for people that aren't familiar with TikTok, there's a lot of different kinds of TikToks. People think, oh, I don't want to see 13-year-olds in crop tops do a dance. But it's so much more than that. And the way the For You page it's that algorithm, the same reason that you get an ad about a wide-legged pant when you're talking to your friend that you'd like to buy a wide-legged pant, and you see it on your phone an hour later at lunch. It's kind of the same way. Like, I don't know how they know what I'm into, but so of course you popped up on my For You page because they know that I'm into murder and marriage and fidelity, and I don't know, I've liked other things, I guess. And I loved that you did these TikToks that caught people's attention, because there's so many people on TikTok telling kind of really awful stories about their marriage or domestic abuse or whatever. And they point and they just do this pretty face and they point, and the writing's like, I had the perfect marriage for 10 years and then this happened. And you do that. And at the end of the TikTok, you do reveal that it's a book. But what I loved is that so many people didn't get to the end and went right to the comments and were just, giving their opinion of thinking that this happened to you, and how could you defend your husband when his mistress is now dead?
Yes. What's really funny is the TikTok is the one that went viral. It has like 3.5 million views. It is 29.4 seconds long. The average watch time is 27.1 seconds. So they're not seeing the book. And it started going viral. Like, and that night it got 1 million views. And I didn't realize that some people thought it was real until they started commenting on TikToks that had my husband in it. And they were like, oh my God, is he out on bail? Why are you still with him? And I was like, oh, people think this is real. So then I tried to explain that it wasn't, but there were still people. I think people don't, there's people out there that don't understand that fiction is not real. So,
Yes.
and I kept saying it's fiction and they were like, I can't believe it's real. And I was like, oh, okay. I don't think you know what fiction means. So.
Right, which, it's a broad audience, so they might not know what fiction means.
Oh,
Now,
I know.
tell me a little bit about your real life, because you are married and your husband's adorable, and I love that he's coming out into the TikToks and being like, you do these funny things with each other about like, you kind of playing into the fact that everyone thinks that you have a horrible husband, and then he pops out behind. And so tell me a little bit about like your marriage and your family and how you met and his support during you being this binge writer with 300 rejections.
Well, we actually met our freshman year of college, but we didn't start dating until like 6 years later because we were both just party animals. So it was never gonna happen. But then he pursued me for a really long time, and I was like, finally 6 years later, I was like, sure, we can go on a date. And then we've been together for 8 years, married for over 2. So he's the one that actually really encouraged me in my book, The Perfect Marriage. It's kind of funny because in the acknowledgments, I always say that he's the Annie Wilkes to my life, like in the movie Misery, because he has literally forced me to write on times where I didn't want to, or forced me to keep going when I wanted to give up. So he's been super supportive, and he's really loving playing the accused murderer in my TikToks. But the only thing he was very worried about was when the Daily Mail picked it up and wrote an article about us, and they pulled our real wedding photos. And the headline photo is a picture of my husband with the text overlay. The woman I was sleeping with was murdered. And I was like, and he's like, my job is going to find out about this. I can't have this. I have to talk to compliance.
What does he do?
He works in banking, so he was
like
very
total opposite. I love that you guys are like, the creative mind and the math mind together make a good couple. That's kind of like my husband and I too. What about your friends and your family? Like, are your parents so happy that you've worked so hard, hit this great moment of success?
My friends and family have always been very supportive. They've read the worst of my drafts, the first drafts, all the way to the completed version. My dad he's going through all this stuff in the house, and he's saving my stuff, but throwing out my siblings because he thinks that he can make money off of it and put my artwork on eBay from when I was a child. So I always say he's like the bootleg Kris Jenner. So he's a different type of entrepreneur. So.
I love it. Now, with who are some of your, this is sort of in the vein. Now, I have not read it. I'm going to read it. I just wanted to be one of the first people that got you on the show before you're like, I'm too big for Juicy Scoop. I'm out.
I could never be.
But I'm excited to read your book because it's so up my alley. What was some of the movies or books that were an inspiration for you? I mean, I immediately think of like the vein of Gone Girl and everything that she's written. Who is that for you?
I didn't actually ever read Gone Girl. I watched the movie before I read it, but I read some of her other books. I read Sharp Objects and Dark Places. I have this thing, if I see the movie before I read the book, I can't read the book then.
Yes.
And that happened with that one. Otherwise,
I read the book first, so I loved it. Yeah.
Which one did you see?
I read Gone Girl. I read Gone Girl before it became a movie.
What did you like more, the movie or the book?
I mean, I think that's always the way to go. You got to read the book first because then you had your vision of it, and then. But I was very happy with the movie. I mean, I like Ben Affleck, so I like him, and I thought she was great, and I thought the way she played that girl that we've all kind of met or known, maybe not to the extreme that she went, but the weird like manipulative woman that keeps the guy, and the guy doesn't even realize he's like in a crazy relationship. I love the finding those different types of women that walk among us, to the degree, and you see characteristics of this character in maybe a friend or an enemy or someone you worked with, so I love that aspect of her writing.
I love that. I love unlikable characters, because that's a big thing in this genre, where I think in other genres the characters have to be likable, but in the thriller genre they don't have to be. And some readers really have an issue with unlikable characters, which I find interesting. But some of my favorite books, like I love The Last Mrs. Parrish. I love Verity, Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter, My Lovely Wife, Woman on the Edge by Samantha M. Bailey. So those are some of my favorites and honestly, they have all of those have very strong female protagonists.
And where did you get like some of the ideas of the cheating, and was any of it taken from ripped from the headlines, or there's maybe your personal friends that like found out their husband was cheating and they found out this unique way? Or how do you ever use your family and friends disguised in a fictional way, and then afraid that they might see that you used it? Because that's happened to me a lot of times, and some people are no longer my friends.
I think every book I write, there's going to be like some of me in there. There's going to be some of my close friends in there. There's going to be some of my family in there. There's actually a character in this book named Matthew, and he's actually based off my friend Matt, and he's literally that character to a T. But he was so happy and proud that he tells people that this is an autobiography about him, and he signs books for it. So he was very happy.
That's happened with me too. If it was people in my life, because mine was nonfiction. Both my books were like autobiographies and funny stories. But if there's people in my life, I was like, I'm not going to change your name, and because you really are my friend, and I'm not saying anything that you'd be, and I let them read it first and stuff. And then with other people, I did change it, and then they figured out it was them, and then they were not happy.
Yeah, that would be really hard if you have to write like an autobiography and you are talking about people.
And then you kind of forget, and I always tell that to people too, if you're starting to write a book and it's about your life, change the names now on the first draft, because here I had a book deal and everything, and nobody told me that, hey, before you start, just change the names. So then at the last minute, I had to change all the names. I had to change an optometrist to a podiatrist or whatever. And then people would come up and they're like, oh, the Ben story was the best. And I'm like, who the fuck is Ben? Like, I didn't even, I'm trying to, oh, you mean Craig? No, Craig was his name. I changed it to Ben. I always tell people, change it right from the start. If you think you might have to change it at the end, change it from the start now, so that you as the writer don't get confused.
Yeah, like with The Perfect Marriage, I rewrote it twice. So there are some things in there when people quote me, I'm like, did I write that? And they're like, yeah. They'll like put it in their Instagram post, and they're quoting me, and I'll literally have to look in the book, and I was like, oh, I did write that. I must have done that in the really quick rewrite, or when I wrote it the first time.
And when you did rewrite it, and I guess change some of the plots or whatever, was that based on your publishing company or advice, or what inspired you to go back and do a couple different drafts?
I actually hired, I did the rewrites when I was with my former agent, and I hired a beta reader, and she kind of told me the book was too much in a vacuum and I needed to have more characters. So I actually had to weave in like 3 characters throughout the entire story. And then I had to switch out a backstory as well and add a new backstory in. So it was kind of like putting together a puzzle, trying to get the story to work again. So it's really fun when people are reading it and I'll get messages all the time like, oh, I'm this far into it, I think it's this person. And then I'm like, oh, I added that person in a rewrite. So I did a very good job of making you think that that's the suspect.
So now explain what a beta reader is, and how someone could maybe, if they're in your position, find someone like that can give them that really valuable guidance and advice.
I found it through an author friend of mine. I hired the same one that she used. Otherwise, you can go on Twitter. There's always people like advertising their beta reading services. And then I have first readers too, which those are typically like family and friends. Well, I will hand them a version that I'm going to submit to my agent or to publishing, and just be like, can you tell me overall what you think of this? Just major things. Don't be nitpicky. Just is there plot holes? Is the character development lacking? So like that.
Does the beta reader also like help you grammatically or with the structure, anything like that, or they're just giving advice on story?
They were just the beta reader I work with. She gives me advice on like plot points, character development, pacing. So it's kind of like the bigger things. Basically, yeah, like almost like a story edit instead of like copy edits or line edits.
Got it.
Yeah, I've never worked with someone that, I mean, aside from at the publishing houses, I've never hired someone to do that.
Yeah. But that's another thing that for writers that are inspired, don't be intimidated if you do lack in those skills grammatically, and does the quote come, before or after the period, those kind of things. Like, don't let that keep you, is my advice, because that is a really easy thing to find someone to go through and do just like a pre-copy edit before you send it out, just so you don't look, not like an idiot, but it's like some of those skills you're like, okay, I'm not ready to like relearn proper grammar, but I know how to write. And so I think that's a great thing too for people.
Yeah, definitely. Because they say like only 2% of authors, aspiring authors, get a literary agent. So it's extremely competitive. And I feel like a lot of times they're looking for reasons to say no. And grammar's one that if it's really bad, they'll say no. So then just get an editor to fix that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm so excited to talk to you, and I'm glad your marriage is still okay. Your husband must be really excited. So wait, tell us about how it came about, as much as you can share about someone approaching you to buy the rights to make this a movie.
Oh, actually, it's okay. So when I got published, I did not have a literary agent. So, and I retained the film and television rights because I had read online, if you get published, keep those rights. So I had them when I signed the contract. I was like, I want to keep those. And they were fine with it. And then then they started getting like inquiries, and I was on Instagram and I was talking to this girl because she like messaged me and said how much she loved my book. And I was standing in line at the post office waiting to like ship out signed copies. And I had just heard from my publisher that there was a film company interested. So they were trying to get me to sign my rights back to them, which I didn't want to do. And so I told her, I was like, well, maybe you'll get to see it on the big screen someday, because I was so excited to tell someone, and we were just in a conversation. And then she was like, wait, the film and television rights haven't been bought or optioned? And I was like, no, I had retained them and I don't know how to sell that. And she was like, I'm bringing coverage to my team. Please don't sign anything. Please don't do anything. And I was just like, okay. And I had no idea who she was. And like, even like looking at her Instagram, I was like, well, she looks connected because I can see her at like Sundance, but like, I don't know her name because she uses like, it's not her real name. And then a few days went by and she's like, I brought coverage to my team. I will let you know if we're going to make an offer. And I was like, okay. And in the meantime, I was still trying to deal with the other one because they wouldn't tell me what film company was interested. And then it was like 2 days later, she DMs me and she's like, we're making an offer for film and television rights. And I was like, okay. And then she was like, by the way, we're the team behind the Hunger Games, Twilight, and Divergent films. And I was just like, okay. And she's like, our team's going to get in touch with your team. And I was like, I don't actually have a team. It's just me. And she was like, okay. And then I had to get on a call with the vice president of development at the company. And they were just like, everyone loves it. Then I found out who the owner of the company is, Patrick Washburger, who was the former co-chair at Lionsgate. So he has his own film company now. And they were like, he's been looking for a book like this for years. We're so excited. And then I had to scramble to find a film agent. So I'm sending out cold queries, not even knowing if that's the way to do it. But I ended up having a friend who had a film agent because she got like a massive deal with Penguin, and she introduced me to her film agent. And then she negotiated the deal, and then she introduced me to some literary agents. So then I kind of went like backwards through publishing. And I always say like publishing wouldn't let me in the front door, so I beat down the back to get in. So,
well, I think that's another thing. What I'm trying to say is like, you've got to have a product first. Mm-hmm. And you had the product first. It's really hard to try to get people behind you with an idea or a concept if you don't have, if you're not David E. Kelley. David E. Kelley can go pitch a show idea without writing it. But, somebody that doesn't have that history is got to show the product, and you had the product and you already had people loving it. And so, in the end, I think you totally went the right route, obviously. And I'm so excited for you. And you guys live in North Carolina, right?
Yes, we just moved here in July. We were up at upstate New York for 2 years. My husband went to Cornell there, which is kind of funny. His name's Andrew. He when we started dating, he was working at a paper company and then he went to Cornell. So if you watch The Office, he's literally the Nard dog. And people comment that in the videos, like, he looks like Andy Bernard. And I'm like, oh, if you only knew the story.
That is so cute. Well, I'm so happy for you guys, and I just can't wait to continue to follow your journey. Tell everybody where they can follow you and buy the book and everything they need to know so they can get on this.
Okay, The Perfect Marriage, it's available on Barnes & Noble's website and Amazon's website. It's available in paperback, Kindle, and audio. And then you can follow me on my TikTok at Jeneva Rose Books or my Instagram at Jeneva Rose Author.
Well, thank you so much. I'm excited. I'm going to be reading it, and this was great.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I hope you love it, and I hope you don't guess the ending. So.
Okay. Well, guys, thanks so much for watching. But what I really want you to do is subscribe right now and hit that like button and give me a thumbs up. And please spread the word and tell at least one friend today about Juicy Scoop.